Sounds good on Facebook, YouTube, and yeah, good. Thank you, Mish. Is it so to get alcoholic beverage at a restaurant when you're just with family? If you're Jewish and it's a non-kosher restaurant, you're not even allowed to be inside the restaurant. Shalom Bachur. Let me see. Okay, we'll start. Thoughts on Palestine? I don't think about them. Alright, there we go. בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים, שבוע טוב, שבוע מבורך. We're back here on a Sunday night, Torah Hasidut, the Torah of Rabbi Elimelech of Diligence, the Tzeitil Katan, the foundation of Hasidut, which is certainly teaching us a lot each and every single week of not only what Hasidut is all about, but also how much we can do to improve ourselves. Tonight's shiur is going to be for the Refuah Shlema and Hatzlacha Rabba for Rabbi Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Sarah bat Levana, Avi Mori David ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Jora, and all of Am Yisrael and all the righteous Noahides that continue to support, continue to help us do all the amazing things at the organization that we're doing, Baruch Hashem. Anyone that wants to donate and help the campaign that we have right now for feeding poor people in Eretz Yisrael, you could donate at the link in the comments or in the description box or on the screen that you'll have available to you to help support hundreds and hundreds of families that, Baruch Hashem, we have the privilege to know and to help on a regular basis, Baruch Hashem. So if you want to donate and help us, by all means, please do. As far as the Asher Yatzar box, I know that a lot of you guys that have received it already are very happy about it and are asking for more. We'll do our best to supply as much as we can, but we're trying to get these boxes everywhere, so anyone that wants to order them for their community can go to kiruvstore.org, kiruvstore.org. And last but not least, the cup that I keep talking about every single week. A bunch of you have received them over this last week or so and and like them almost as much as I do. So we'll do it for another week. Anyone that subscribes to the AI Rabbi, the paid app of the AI Rabbi, we'll get one of these free cups, tea tumblers, I think they're called, tumblers. So you'll get one of these, B'ezrat Hashem. So with that being said, we'll get started. We have, Baruch Hashem, a lot to learn, and B'ezrat Hashem na'aseh v'natzliach. So Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhensk really is digging deeper and deeper into our souls, into our lives, to give us a better idea of what is Hasidut. And of course, we've already learned that Hasidut is not just a shtreimel and some white socks, or perhaps some peot. There's a whole lot more to Hasidut than most people realize, even people that are within the world of Hasidut. In fact, there's quite a few Talmidim that are Hasidim, that watch my shiurim and say that this type of teachings they haven't heard, even though they've read. Some of them at least have read the Tzeitil Katan, have learned the Tzeitil Katan, they haven't learned it this way. So Baruch Hashem for that. And Rabbi Elimelech is in essence telling us that there is a lot that we need to do in order to be Hasidim, in order to be Jews, in order to be people that are serving Hashem like we're supposed to. Now, there is a Mishnah in Masechet Chagiga that asks a question. What is crooked that cannot be straightened? Now, there's a couple of options. There's an option of someone that's a Mamzer, someone that brought a Mamzer to the world, a forbidden relationship, brought a Mamzer. Is that something that can't be fixed? Another one is giving an example of a thief. What if a thief can't, he's a thief, he can't fix himself. Another one said maybe a Talmid Chacham who is no longer studying Torah. Now, of course, the initial inclination is going to be to say, yeah, for sure, it's the Mamzer, because once you bring that to the world, you can't undo it. But tonight, we're going to learn a little bit more about what it takes, Rabotai, to serve Hashem like we're supposed to. Now, Rabbi Elimelech told us in this segment about how critical it is to be diligent when it comes to Torah study. Now, the importance of Torah study and having a schedule is agreed upon by all of Gdolei Israel, by all of the Torah scholars that are out there. They're going to constantly mention that to you. You have to learn Torah every single day. There's no question about it. There's no doubts about it. There's no debate about it. Learning Torah every day. Now, for a person that's not a Torah scholar, a businessman, a businesswoman, a mother, a father, an average person, a teenager, this seems a little bit excessive. Perhaps maybe the person will think, oh, maybe these scholars are saying you have to learn Torah every day because they like it. But I don't like it, or it's hard for me. Maybe it's easy for them. And all types of different rationales that a person will have to justify this constant pressure, if you will, that you have to learn Torah every day. But in order to truly understand what this means, sometimes a proper analogy with an extreme twist is the best fit. Tonight, we're going to learn about something that's called the death before dance, the dance before death, the crooked that cannot be straightened, and ultimately, one who chose the wrong side. What is his end? Rabbi Elimelech tells us to be very diligent when it comes to having a proper Torah study program. Meaning that before everything else, a person has to know that learning Torah is of utmost importance. And until a person understands that, they're not going to make it as a top priority. Maybe they'll watch a lecture here and there whenever they get a chance, when they're not doing anything else. Maybe they're going to open up a book when there's nothing else that they can do. But learning Torah as the top priority, they haven't made it yet. Whereas we see the difference between what Rabbi Elimelech and Gdolei Israel and what they're saying and what the average person is doing, even if I'm talking about a person that, is religious. We're not talking about people that are not religious. If they're not religious, then of course, they're going to say it's not important. I'm talking about people that are religious, within a religious community, not truly understanding the importance of learning Torah every day. Now, diligence in Torah study, for better or for worse, Rabbi Elimelech, who was the third generation after the Baal Shem Tov, is telling us that this is the ultimate part of servitude that man has for his Creator. In so many words, Rabbi Elimelech is just repeating what Chazal, what the sages have told us in the Gemara, that learning Torah is not something that a person should do as a hobby or as something that's a nice recommendation, so when I get a chance, I'll try it out. But rather, this is the ultimate way to serve your Creator. And the Mishnah in Masechet Peah, in the first chapter, in the first Mishnah, says that all of the mitzvot that Hashem gave us, there's many, many mitzvot that Hashem gave us, some of them we get rewarded for them in the next world, some of them we get rewarded for them in this world. But when it comes to Torah study is above everything. Meaning, if a person learns Torah, he's in essence fulfilling the mitzvot he's learning about. And this is actually something that anyone that prays Shachrit, prays the morning prayer, reads this every morning. Perhaps to their knowledge or without their knowledge, but when we read about the korbanot, when we read about the sacrifices, Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, his rabbi and his chavruta, discussed the issue, and this is actually in our prayer where when we read about the korbanot, the conclusion is we read about them not because we're about to make a sacrifice tomorrow, because quite frankly, even if the Bet HaMikdash was built tomorrow, Be'ezrat Hashem, the overwhelming majority of people are not going to be serving in the Bet HaMikdash. At best, they'll bring a korban, they'll bring a sacrifice, but they're not going to actually do the whole process. So why do I need to know all these details of the korbanot? That's because when you learn about the korbanot, just like any other mitzvah, you are fulfilling that mitzvah. So studying Torah is a lot more than just gaining knowledge of what happened thousands of years ago, of the different prophecies of what's going to happen in the future. Studying Torah is fulfilling mitzvot. In essence, studying Torah is above all. This is why a person has to invest an enormous amount of time to ensure that he has a Torah study program. Now, since this is also known to the Yetzer Hara, it's known to the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara works extra hard in order to get a person to do anything except learn Torah. And this is actually one of the things we learned in our other series, The War of Amalek, where Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman emphasizes week after week that the only defense we have against Amalek is publicizing Torah, is learning Torah and publicizing it, getting people to do tshuva, getting people to learn Torah. That's the only defense we have against Amalek. Whether that Amalek is coming in a form of missionizing, spiritual Amalek, or there's Amalek, it's a physical Amalek, regardless of what it is, the only way to fight it is by learning Torah. And unfortunately, people that don't learn Torah don't realize what the risk is. Now, the Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin, in page 30b, Rabbi Shimon ben Levi says that a person's Yetzer Hara, a person's evil inclination, tries to overpower him every single day in order to kill him. And if not for Hashem's help, the person cannot overcome the evil inclination. As it's written, Hashem won't leave us in his hands. Now, if we dig a little deeper into this Gemara, in Masechet Kiddushin, page 30b, we see that the sages are giving us clear warnings against abandoning the Torah. But they're not just saying, listen, don't stop learning Torah. They're giving us clarification. First and foremost, the sages say the Torah is compared to a life-giving elixir. An analogy can be drawn to a man that dealt his son a great blow and then placed the compress upon his wound, saying to him, my son, so long as the compress remains upon your wound, you may eat what you desire, drink what you desire, and bathe in either hot or cold water. And you need not fear that any harm will come to you by these actions. But if you remove the compress, your wound will surely give rise to boils. So too has the Holy One, blessed is He, said to Am Yisrael, my son, I have created the evil inclination, and I have created Torah as its antidote. If you involve yourself in Torah, you will not be delivered into his hand. As it says, certainly if you correct yourself, you will prevail. But if you do not involve yourselves in Torah, you will be delivered into his hand. As it says, Lapetach hatat rovetz, but if you do not act well, sin rests at your door. So here, the sages are giving us a relatively simple analogy to understand, where just like the compress is in essence to protect this wound that this son has, this opening that this son has, requires him to keep his hand on the compress. The same thing with Am Yisrael. In order for us not to allow that opening that we have in our neshama, that opening, whether it's the windows to our soul, like the eyes, or it's simply what we allow into our mind and into our hearts. If we protect it, then we don't have to worry about anything. Protect it from what? Protect it from the evil inclination and what he wants to show us, what he wants to tell us. Whether he wants to show us things that are not modest, things that are inappropriate, things that are going to confuse us, or it's going to be things that people tell us, whether it's a heretical ideas, all types of nonsense that different people, publicize. And the reality is that when a person allows themselves to delve into any book, no matter what, delve into any teachings, no matter what, look at anything, no matter what, they are simply opening two huge doors for the Yetzer Hara to simply do as he wishes. So how could a person overcome these desires? By learning Torah. Why? Because the Torah strengthens you spiritually. Furthermore, the Gemara says that the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is so terrible that even its creator called it evil. As it says, that because the evil of man's heart is evil from his youth. This is in Parashat Noach. Meaning that the Yetzer Hara is not your friend. And if you've befriended him, then that means you've already become his servant. The Yetzer Hara is evil. That's his job. What does it mean, evil? He will do anything he possibly can, with the permission of Hashem, to distance you away from the source of all connection to Hashem, which is learning Torah. Now, Rabbi Yitzchak says, a person's evil inclination renews itself against him every day. This is what we started off with. It says, only evil the entire day. This is a verse from the Torah in Bereshit chapter 6, verse 5. And Parashat Noach as well. And Rabbi Shimon ben Levi says, a person's evil inclination threatens to overpower him every day and seeks to kill him. And if it's not for the Holy One, blessed is he would be unable to withstand him. So here we see the sages, the holy sages, how scared they themselves were when they are discussing the Yetzer Hara, they're discussing the evil inclination. Now, of course, they were not scared of seeing an immodest woman or some internet site or somebody telling them heretical ideas. These are holy people. But at the same token, they knew that the Yetzer Hara comes with a custom-made proposal for every single person. For the person that lusts after women, the Yetzer Hara will send him women. For the person that lusts all types of ideas, he'll come to him with heretical ideas. For the person that is weak-minded, he'll come to him with those types of ideas that are going to confuse him. For the person that lusts after money, he'll come to him with all types of traps that have to do with money, whether it's corrupt business deals, corrupt jobs, or corrupt dealings in general, whatever it is. The sages knew that although they don't need to be concerned with what, let's say, the average person today is concerned with, or should be concerned with, they knew that the Yetzer Hara is working tirelessly for every single neshama, because that's his job. And then the Gemara finalizes this. How do you deal with this Yetzer Hara? Okay, fine. Hashem will, is going to help you. But how? How is he going to help you? Last time you looked at something, you didn't see some burning bush separating you and that vision. Last time somebody was on a video telling you some type of heretical beliefs, idolatrous beliefs, whether it's from the false testament or it's from even people that call themselves rabbis. You didn't see anything stop that video. You didn't see the speaker just blow up and, a sign on the screen said, heretics not wanted. You didn't see any of that. So how does Hashem help you? Because the Gemara says that if it wasn't for Hashem helping you against the evil inclination, you won't be able to defeat him. So how is Hashem helping you? By you helping yourself, by connecting to Hashem. How? The Academy of Rabbi Ishmael says, my son, if the repulsive one engages you, draw him to the study hole. If he's like a stone, he will dissolve. And if he's like an iron, he will shatter. In so many words, Rabotai, the sages are teaching us that the way that Hashem allows himself to help us is when we help ourselves by learning Torah. When a person learns Torah, they connect to Hashem. They strengthen themselves spiritually. They strengthen themselves mentally. They strengthen themselves in every single aspect. So when these different traps come, they have the tools, they have the weapons to fight. But if a person doesn't learn Torah and the Yetzer Hara comes, they're done. Now, Reuven explains what the sages are saying in another way. Every person wakes up and has plans. He has plans to do good things. Wants to go pray, do some mitzvot, whether it's the blessing of a sheyetzar after he relieves himself in the bathroom, or it's before he eats. He's going to say a different blessing depending on what he's going to eat. Or he's going to go to work and do honest dealings in his business. Perhaps he'll make enough money, maybe he can give some tzedakah, help some people that are less privileged than he is or she is. He has plans. He even has plans to go to a shiur Torah later that day. The rabbi is giving a shiur Torah. He really enjoys the rabbi's speeches. And he plans that at such and such time he's going to go. Now what that person is probably not thinking, first thing in the morning, and perhaps maybe not even throughout most of the day, is that just like he woke up with plans, the Yetzer Hara also has plans. And his plan is to destroy him. His plan is to destroy that person by doing anything and everything possible to create a greater distance between him and Hashem. Ultimately, there's of course the traps of the sins. Come on, don't pray. Just skip it. You got to go to work. Come on, who has time for a blessing? Just bless anything. Everything is shakol. Oh, come on, just cut off this person on the highway. You need to be somewhere faster. They're too slow, even though you're jeopardizing both of your lives. Oh, come on, just do this, and come on, just do that. The Yetzer Hara is trying to get the person to do all types of things. And that person is only going to be a victim if they allow themselves to be a victim. But even if he doesn't fall for all those small traps, even if he prays, even if he does the blessings, even if he doesn't cut off anybody on the highway, he doesn't steal anything from the store, the Yetzer Hara still has his big weapon waiting and waiting. For what? For the moment that shiur Torah, for the moment that shiur Torah topic comes up, where the person is reminded, oh, I have to be at a certain place, I got to be at the shul, or I got to be at a certain location in order to go to that shiur Torah, in order to listen to the Torah lecture, and all of a sudden, every distraction known to man shows up. All of a sudden, his wife needs his attention. All of a sudden, one of the kids doesn't feel well. All of a sudden, the dog has to go outside. All of a sudden, he has a flat tire. All of a sudden, this. All of a sudden, that. Everything and anything that could possibly happen suddenly happens. It didn't happen the whole day. Nobody needed his attention. Nobody called him. Everyone forgot he even exists. But when it came to the shiur Torah, all of a sudden, his phone cannot stop ringing as if he's a radio host, getting phone calls. And the Yetzer Hara has been planning this all day. Why? Because that's the key to destroy him. If he doesn't learn Torah, that means tomorrow he's going to be weaker. That means that he's more susceptible to those traps of making sins tomorrow. If he doesn't do it long enough, he probably won't pray. If he doesn't learn Torah for long enough, he'll probably stop making blessings. If he doesn't learn Torah for long enough, most likely he'll start driving to work on Shabbat. So the Yetzer Hara also has plans, but his plans are different than the average person. While the average person is trying to be productive, to do good, to do mitzvot, the Yetzer Hara has a plan also to destroy the person. This is why the Admor Mikotsk said to his students, to his Talmidim, you have to imagine that the Yetzer Hara is like some Cossack, a giant Cossack standing over you with an axe, about to chop off your head. One of the Talmidim said to the Rabbi, what if you can't visualize that? The Admor Mikotsk, that his tongue was sharper than a knife, says to him, that means that his Yetzer Hara has already chopped off your head. Meaning that means you've already become one of his prisoners. You're already falling for his tricks. He's already destroying you. If you can't visualize the fact that the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is trying to destroy you and distance you away from Hashem, that means that you already are far enough. If you don't see the lack of learning Torah as a problem, that means that the Yetzer Hara has already chopped off your head and, in so many words, put you in a situation where you don't even think it's a problem anymore. This is like somebody that has a terminal disease walking around as if they're healthy. Now, the Torah commands us that if somebody comes to kill us, we have to kill them first. And the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 58, tells us, somebody comes to kill you, kill them first. And the same concept goes with the Yetzer Hara. With the evil inclination is coming to destroy you. You have to destroy him first. How can you destroy him first? If you don't know when he's coming, by learning Torah, you are already destroying him. Because just like the Gemara said, if he is a stone, he will dissolve. If he is a piece of metal, he'll explode. By learning Torah, you are fighting the Yetzer Hara with or without realizing where he is. And therefore, since the Yetzer Hara comes to attack the person as soon as they're awake, he even comes during the night, but he comes as soon as the person is awake. A person should immediately do Netilat Yadayim that we spoke about in recent weeks, do the morning blessings to allow themselves to learn Torah, because as the Gemara says that one of the reasons why Hashem destroyed the Bet HaMikdash was because people were not making blessings before they started learning Torah. They would just learn Torah as if it's any other subject. They didn't give the Torah enough respect to make the blessings. So we have to do our morning blessings. Some of them, 3 of them, are giving us permission to learn Torah. And even before a person starts their day by praying, they should try to get whatever they can in learning Torah. On the way to shul, listen to a shiur. If you're walking, read something. If you have an extra few minutes, try to read something. Try to listen to something. Get some Torah in as soon as possible. Why? Not only because this is going to help you the whole day, and it's going to gain knowledge, but also it's going to change the prayer altogether. Why? Because as soon as you start your day by learning some level of Torah, the Yetzer Hara's initial attack on you during that day is fought off. And that's why the Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin says that the Torah destroys the Yetzer Hara, whether he's a stone or he's a piece of metal. In so many words, whatever aspect, whatever way the Yetzer Hara is coming to you, the Torah is the same exact weapon. And therefore, when a person looks at the words of the sages, looks at the words of Rabbi Elimelech of Lezhinsk, he sees that everyone is warning us about the Yetzer Hara. But at the same time, they're warning us not to abandon Torah study, because Torah study is your life. Now, this, as I said, is understandable and very, very clear to Torah scholars. If you tell a Torah scholar, I'll give you $1 billion, but you drive on Shabbat, no legitimate Torah scholar will ever even contemplate it for a second. I'll give you a $100,000 job a year. Go and leave the kollel. No legitimate Torah scholar will even consider it. They rather live in poverty, if that's what Hashem decreed, than leave the Torah. It's not a consideration. They're not learning Torah because someone forced them. They're learning Torah because it's by choice. And to them, that's all they care about. This one avrech, poor avrech, was some time ago, a couple of years ago, there was a horrible murder in Israel of an older couple was murdered. And of course, the lefty liberal Israeli government blamed who? None other than their son, who was a married avrech tzaddik with kids. They came to him as he was taking his kids to kindergarten, arrested him in front of his kids, left his kids in the middle of the street, arrested his wife, the poor tzaddikah that was pregnant, and took this poor avrech that literally wouldn't even pick up a fork the wrong way, and took him and beat him senseless, as if he is the worst terrorist in the world, just to get him to admit that he killed his parents, which obviously he never did. And they beat him and tortured him in Israeli prisons. Eventually, they let him go. Not because they believed him, but because the real murderer was caught. Some Arab worker that worked in the building. But when it comes to this particular avrech, like any other avrech, the one main thing that saves them is the Torah. And this avrech that went to the kollel with Rabbi Ephraim says the one thing that saved me from the tortures that they put me through, the beatings, the horrible, horrible things that, technically other Jews are doing to him. What was it? He said, in my prison, this filthy, disgusting place, I found under the bed, like inside the mattress, there was hidden a small little Mishnah of Masechet Reuven. And he said, I didn't know how I'm going to get my head straight to listen to learn such a difficult Masechet, but that's what kept me alive while I was there. So, to a Torah scholar, to an avrech, saying to them, Torah is your life, it's like, okay, yes, of course. What's the chidush here? It's obviously. But to the average person, which is the overwhelming majority of society, they don't see it as anything like, why do you guys read so many books? What's the difference between you reading those books and some scholar for, architecture or world history or the history of the horses in the West? What's the difference between their pleasure of reading about butterflies and horses and your pleasure of reading about the Torah that God gave you? And the different debates between the Chachamim of how to perfect servitude of Hashem. So the average person is simply far, far away from understanding the importance of Torah. In fact, Rabotai, this is not necessarily just something that we see here. This is sometimes even great people will sometimes miss the importance of Torah. The Gemara in Masechet Brachot gives a very relevant to our times example of what happened at the times of the Roman rule, Yimach Shemam V'Zichram, where the Romans decreed that, like other nations always try to fight us, they know that the number one way to fight Am Yisrael is by getting us to abandon the Torah. So the Romans decreed that Jews are not allowed to learn Torah anymore. Despite this, anyone that would be caught learning Torah, needless to say, teaching Torah, would get a death penalty. The Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 61b, says that when this wicked regime, the Roman government, decreed that the Jewish people should not engage in Torah study, Pappus ben Yehuda came and found Rabbi Akiva as he was giving a lecture. Not only giving a lecture to a few people, but giving a lecture to the masses in the middle of the street. Now, Pappus ben Yehuda was a tzaddik. The Gemara says that there was a blood libel against the Jews. One of the emperor's daughters was murdered, and they obviously blamed the Jews because from their perspective, the Goyim never murder, only the Jews murder. So they said to the Jews, if you don't give us who the murderers are, we're going to kill everybody. So Pappus and his brother Ulyanus came forth and said, yeah, we killed him. We killed him. They didn't kill, but they knew that it's better for them to sacrifice themselves than for all of Am Yisrael to die, because they knew that the Romans were looking for an excuse to kill all of the Jews. So Pappus was certainly a tzaddik. But when Pappus saw that Rabbi Akiva was teaching Torah in the public, to the masses, thousands of people, he says to Rabbi Akiva, what are you doing? Don't you know that you are at risk teaching Torah when these wicked people told us we cannot even learn Torah? Rabbi Akiva says, let me explain to you what I'm doing in a parable. He says there was once a group of fish were running away because the people were coming down the river with their nets. So the fish were running away. All of a sudden, the fox saw this and ran over to the fish and said, why are you running? And the fish said, we're running away from the people. They're trying to put us and bring us to the dry land and kill us. And the fish said, you don't need to worry. Why don't you come with me? Why don't all of you come over here on the land, be with me, and we'll be safe together. The fish said to him, you fool, you're the one that they call the most clever of all the animals? You're a fool. If we're scared when we're in the water, needless to say, are we going to be more scared to go out of the water where it's only death for us? Now, why did Rabbi Akiva give this example? Now, of course, there's a lot more to the story than appears. First off, as Rabbi Akiva said this, initially Pappus was taken back that this was the explanation. Rabbi Akiva explains to him, the water is the Torah. The water is the Torah. If we're scared, even while we learn Torah, we're scared of this Roman regime killing us. We're scared of the anti-Semites. We're scared of the liberal lefty government that's more anti-Semitic than some Nazis. We're scared of all of that even while we learn Torah. Needless to say, if you take us out of the Torah, how are we going to benefit if we go to a place where there's only death? Now, as time passed, shortly thereafter, the Gemara says that both were arrested, Rabbi Akiva and Pappus ben Yehuda. Rabbi Akiva was arrested for teaching Torah. So when he saw Pappus ben Yehuda, he says, Pappus, what are you doing here? And Pappus put his head down and said, Ashrecha, praiseworthy are you, Rabbi Akiva, that at least you were caught and are imprisoned because you were teaching Torah. I was imprisoned for some false charge that I killed somebody. Wait, did they catch him or did he admit? No, he admitted. He said he turned himself in even though he didn't do it in order to sacrifice himself for the sake of Am Yisrael. Now this is considered very praiseworthy, extraordinarily praiseworthy, The Gemara itself in Masechet Gitin and other places says that Pappus and his brother Ulyanus were tzaddikim gemurim. They're in Gan Eden at the highest places. But even Pappus himself knew that even though I sacrifice myself and I'm going to die for the sake of saving Jews from being murdered by these evil monsters, that's still nothing in comparison to what Rabbi Akiva was doing when he was going to be killed for teaching Torah. Because there's nothing greater than Torah. So he says, praiseworthy are you, Rabbi Akiva, that you were caught on teaching Torah. Now, why did Rabbi Akiva use the fish example, though? He could have used any other example. First, we have to understand that when Rabbi Akiva says the fish are in the water, obviously, like we explained, as the Gemara says, it's because the water is always a synonym, or I should say something that the Torah compares to Torah. As Rav Baruch Ber Leibovich said to another rabbi, they were in some type of speaking event where there were different rabbis speaking, and one of the rabbis was a Talmid Chacham, Tzaddik, said the Torah is like air. You can't live without air. But Rav Baruch Ber Leibovich interrupted and said, I'm sorry, I have to disagree with what Kvodo said. Because our Torah tells us that the Torah is our life. Breathing air is not life. It's just a little bit. It's something that allows life to exist for another moment. But it's not all of life. But our Torah tells us Kiem chayenu ve'orech yamenu, that the Torah is our life. So you can't say that the Torah is like our heart, is like our brain, is like a breath of fresh air. No. The Torah is life itself. And therefore Rabbi Akiva said, to take us out of the water, to take us out of the Torah, and it's taking us to a place where the only thing that exists is death. And what can that be compared to? To this fish. Where one time there was a little boy that his father took him to the market for the first time. And this little boy sees, there's apples and oranges and all types of things. And then they get to the fish market. And the little boy sees that they took out one of the fish out of the water. And the fish starts dancing. And the kid starts laughing. Look at that. Look at that fish. He's having such a good time. He's dancing. Look. He's dancing. Look, he's jumping. He's dancing. He's moving. He's singing. At the same time, one of the fish inside, still swimming, also sees this. He sees his friend outside, out in the open, in the big world. And he looks and says, wow, look at this guy. He's having a good time. He left this mundane, so-called safe zone, so-called good place. And over there, look at that. I can see he's having a good time. Look at that, he's dancing. He's having a blast. I can't hear him, but it looks like he's singing. So both the boy and the fish inside have the same amount of wrong knowledge about what's happening to that fish. Because to them, it looks like the fish is dancing. It looks like the fish is singing. It looks like the fish is having a good time. Once the fish calms down, the kid says, oh, he's probably resting. This fish is probably resting. He danced so hard, he's probably resting. He's probably relaxing a little bit. He's going to start dancing soon. Same thing that the other fish says. He says, look, he's having such a blast, he's even allowing himself to take a nap. I'm going to go join him. And that fish jumps out of the water also. And the fish still left inside also look at him. Look at that, he's also dancing. Look, he's dancing. Look, he's singing. Look, he's having a good time. Oh, now he's resting. And it looks like they're both having fun. It looks like they're both having a good time. Little does everybody know that they both died. And in essence, as Reuven explains it, that's exactly what the Yetzer Hara does to each and every single person that allows him to enter. Before he kills a person, he lets him dance. He lets him look happy. Why? Why does he let him have a good time? Dance. Because that's going to entice other people to join. So he left the Torah, he left the yeshiva, he left the Bet Midrash. Now he's going to some club. Now he's having drinks. Now he's dancing. Looks like he's having fun. He's telling other people, listen, I got this new job. I'm now making money. I got this new girl. I got this new this. I got this new that. Looks like he's dancing. Looks like he's having a good time. In reality, he doesn't realize that he's dying. In reality, the people that are looking at him, that are not Torah scholars, that are not familiar with how the Yetzer Hara works, don't realize that he's literally dying in front of their eyes. And that dance is simply the dance of the dead. Now, that second fish that jumped out thinking that the first fish was having a good time, he quickly realizes that he made a mistake, because as soon as he got out of the water, he realized that he can't breathe anymore. He realized that he can't function anymore. And he's not dancing, and his friend wasn't dancing. It just looks like that. So, with the little bit of strength that he still has an opportunity to do whatever he can to get back into the water. The same concept goes with somebody that left the derech. Somebody that left the yeshiva, left the kollel, left the synagogue, left the community. Initially, it looks like fun, but quickly they realize that it's not all it's cracked up to be. Many people love to pin their blame of why they left the religious community on other religious people. Oh yeah, they were not nice to me. Oh yeah, they cheated me. Oh, what? You think that in the secular world they're not going to cheat you? You think that in the secular world they're not going to steal from you? You think that in the secular world they're going to be more honest? You're in for a surprise. You're in for a very, very big surprise. And while everybody likes to pin their excuse of why they left the religious community on other people, the truth is the only real reason is because they wanted to follow their lusts. That's the only real reason. Even though certain people certainly experience bad things, see bad things, but that has nothing to do with God. The fact that bad people are what you saw doesn't mean that God changed. That means that God allowed certain things to happen. Why? Because you can pass the test, because you can overcome it, because you deserve such and such in order to get to a different place. You deserve that door to be closed in front of your face in order for 3 other doors to be opened. But there's no way to show you the other 3 doors so long as you're committed to the first door. But the person that does not realize that Hashem runs the world and allows everything to happen because that's what He decrees to happen. No one can help you or hurt you if it's not the will of Hashem. Which means that even if someone hurts you, it doesn't mean that Hashem is not going to punish them. For sure He's going to punish them. Just like He punished Paro. Because even though the decree was from Hashem to get Am Yisrael to be slaves, Paro chose to be the one that enslaved them. Therefore, he's the one that's going to be punished. The same thing that one of our Dayanim said to one of these horrible excuse for teachers that rejected one of the amazing tzadikot that was trying to enroll to their school. He says, no, everything is from Hashem, but your daughter didn't get accepted, even though she has perfect grades, even though she's a tzadikah, even though everything is good. No, she didn't get accepted. Why? She's a little bit too Sephardic for us. If you're not Ashkenazi, you're not allowed to get going to that school. So, he says to her, listen, everything is from Hashem, but remember, Paro chose to be Paro. He didn't have to be Paro. Hashem decreed that there's going to be slavery. Hashem decreed there's going to be slavery. But Paro chose to be Paro. Hashem decreed that there's going to be certain difficulties to get this young girl into school. But you chose to be Paro. This, unfortunately, is a very common story that happens practically to every parent trying to get their kids to go to religious school. Why? Because there's a bunch of Gehazis and Paros at the administration of many of these places that are racist, that are simply despicable when it comes to who they choose to allow to go to a school. Now, a person should not abandon Hashem and His Torah because there's bad people, but rather should know that Hashem is the one that is allowing this to happen, and you still have to overcome the obstacle. Why? Because there is a reward at the end. There is a reward at the end. The difficulties that Avraham Avinu endured, Yitzchak Avinu endured, Yaakov Avinu endured, Moshe Rabbeinu endured, David HaMelech endured, all of the tzaddikim throughout all of history. Those were all decreed by Hashem, and Hashem said this has to happen in order for that person, in order for that tzaddik to get to where he needs to be. Nobody has an easy life. Nobody has a clear road. By abandoning Hashem, all you're doing is simply allowing the Yetzer Hara to navigate your direction. So when we go back to the example here, we see that there is a time where a person realizes, you know what? It looked like the other fish was dancing, but in reality, he wasn't dancing. He was dying. I got to go back. It's not so simple to go back. Why? Because now you have to exert even more effort to go back. And the Yetzer Hara didn't go on vacation after he got you off the derech. The Yetzer Hara now is going to exert all of his efforts to get you to give up. Why? You already left. Going back is going to be embarrassing. You already left. What's everyone's going to think if you come back with your tail between your legs? You already left. Hashem hates you already. You already left. You made so many sins. You're unrecoverable. You're the crooked that cannot be straightened. You already left. And that's what the Yetzer Hara, the evil Ra, is going to tell that fish. Don't go back. It's already too late. Because his new mission, after he got you off of learning Torah, after he got you off of making blessings, after he got you off of simply understanding what your purpose is in this world, he now is going to do everything possible to keep you off the right direction, not going back. Now the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, in page 107, says, a person that takes out a fish, a living fish, out of the water on Shabbat is considered as if he violated Shabbat. Not allowed to do that. Because you're killing the fish, you're not allowed to kill. Not on Shabbat. Now then the Chachamim discuss when is it exactly the moment that the fish dies. Why do we need to know when is it exactly the fish dies? Because so long as the fish did not die, technically you didn't violate the Torah yet, because the violation is killing. If the fish is still alive, then technically you still have time to put him back in the water and you didn't kill him. Shmuel says, if he takes the fish from the sea, as soon as it's dry, as soon as the fish has a dry spot, as wide as a sela is like this big, it's like a little circle. As soon as the fish has a dry spot as big as that, then that fish is considered as if he's dead. Even if he's still moving, if he has that much dry spot on him, for sure he's going to dry up and die, and that's it. So it's considered as if he's already dead now. Rabbi Yosef Bar Ravina says, no. Actually, it's not just any dry spot. but rather it has to be a dry spot between its fins. If the dry spot is between his fins, then yes, the fish is considered dead, even if he's still moving. Because even if you take that fish and throw him back into the water, that fish is not going to move, he's done. Now the Baalei Musar said a very deep, very, very deep idea here. He said, why the fins? Why the fins? Why not the head, the body? Why the fins? Connecting it back to the analogy that Rabbi Akiva said to Papus. He says, if you throw us into the water of Torah, we're going to live. Even if that's in fear because the Romans want to kill us, but we're still going to live. The moment you take us out of the water, the moment you take us out of the Torah, that's it, we're dead. Even if the Romans themselves don't kill us, we're spiritually dead. There's no purpose for our life. Now, sometimes a person thinks that they can perhaps become like the Zionists, become like the Mityavnim, the Greeks of the day, become like the Romans, become like the Goyim, and still save their Judaism in some way. But then when they go there, they realize they made a mistake. Those other people that left before me, they looked like they were having a good time. They looked like they were dancing. In reality, they were just dying. They were like the fish that came out of the water and died. But it looked like he was dancing beforehand. So they want to go back. And the Yetzer Hara is going to do everything possible to stop them. But so long as their fins can move, they can do something about it. So long as they have the tools to go back, to move forward, they're still considered alive. But the moment those tools have been destroyed, the moment that the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, has convinced you that you don't have the tools to go back and do tshuva. You don't have a door open. The rabbi is not going to accept you. Your family is not going to accept you. No one's going to accept you. Hashem is not going to accept you. Nothing. The moment that the Yetzer Hara convinces you that you no longer have fins, that all of your hopes and chances have dried up, that's when you're officially dead. Until that point, where you thought that there is a way back, the fins didn't dry up yet. Your tools to go back were still available. You're still considered alive. But the moment you lose hope of coming back, that means the Yetzer Hara is won. That means that the Yetzer Hara is won. Now, the Yetzer Hara works hard to break the fins of the person that's trying to do tshuva by showing him dancing fish. Showing him dancing fish. He came out. He's starting to question whether this is the right direction or not. So the Yetzer Hara starts showing him other fish that look like they're having a good time. Other people that have left the Torah that are pretending like this life is better. It's better to abandon. It's better to abandon his wife and kids and now live with some public property and pretend like she cares about him. So the Yetzer Hara will do everything possible to get the person as far as possible from the water. And the longer he does not learn Torah, the longer he does not do mitzvot, the longer he's not connected to Hashem, the more difficult it is for him to go back. And that's why when a person does tshuva, let's say they grew up without a Torah education, and now they watch the lectures, they watch the films, they're inspired, they want to do tshuva, and then at some point, that initial learning that they were doing, they're watching the lectures, perhaps even reading some books, they figured, listen, I'm already religious for a few years, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I don't need to learn as much as I learned in the beginning because I already know. I already know enough. I'll just keep the mitzvot and I'll study Torah whenever I get a chance, because now I have to worry about making more money now, because now I'm married and I have a few kids. Now I run the company, I'm the president, I'm the vice president, I'm whatever president. Now life is busy. Now I'm not really young anymore that I have all this time. I can't listen to 4 or 5 hours of lectures a day. I can't read books only on Shabbat. And a person that has done tshuva, either for the first time or the second time, and thinks that he or she can do tshuva without learning Torah, is simply fooling themselves. Just like a person that decides to go to war against a horrible enemy, but chooses not to bring any weapons. The Torah is the ultimate weapon. So long as you learn Torah, every single day you have a weapon to rely on. The moment the Torah becomes like a hobby, the moment the Torah becomes something superficial, the moment the Torah becomes something you do when you have nothing else to do, that's when death starts to arrive without a person noticing it. Why? Because each day they're getting a little more dry, and they don't realize it. It's like the frog. A frog, if you put it in water, and then you start heating the water, the frog will stay in the water. Even while it's boiling to death, the frog will stay in the water and die. That's the same concept of a person that came in, did tshuva, started learning Torah, used that spiritual weapon to grow himself or herself. And then figured that, you know what, now that I've done it, now that I'm modest, now that I go to shul every day, now that I give tzedakah, that's it, I don't need to learn Torah. In reality, what they've turned themselves is from the fish that was out of the water and then saved himself by going back into the water. Now they turn themselves into a frog that's being cooked. Every single day, it's getting worse and worse. And they don't realize that it's only a matter of time before the Yetzer Hara will come back with a vengeance, with new things. Not the old things, new tricks, new tools. And you don't have the weapons to fight them. Now, people love Hasidut today, especially people that are new. Hasidut looks like it's something from the, authentic, something from, a long time ago. It has special garments, special customs. So many people are attracted to Hasidut. The truth is that few actually follow what the Hasidut actually says. For example, those that are really loyal to the teachings of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov know that Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, alav shalom, wrote in his sefer that his Talmidim can learn his sefer as much as they want, as long as they do not forget or avoid even a single letter in the Shulchan Aruch. In fact, you have to learn the Shulchan Aruch, you have to learn the Gemara, you have to learn the Chumash, you have to learn all of the basics of the Torah even before you learn the Lekutei Maharan. That's what Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says. Now, what many people visualize Rabbi Nachman is like a cartoon. Happy, dancing, enjoying. But there's a sefer called Sefer Chayei Moharan, about the life of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. And on page 547 is a story where a few of the students of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov came to him and said to him they were impressed by a different Chacham, a different Talmid Chacham. And they said that he learned 191 dapim of Gemara in one day. Whether he did it every day, 191 dapim every day, or he just did it one day, regardless, the response of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov to his students, obviously he's not showing off to his students, He's there to teach his students of what's possible. He says to them, in regards to this Talmid Chacham that learned 191 dapim of Gemara in one day, it's me'at. What's me'at? Me'at is, it's very few, which is also the gematria of 191, by the way. Now, of course, anyone that's going to study today, or is studying today, and hears this, say, what do you mean? 191 dapim of Gemara is very few? I'm lucky if I get 3 dapim a day. I'm lucky if I get 2 dapim a day, or 1 daf a day. How is 191 very few? That's coming from a tzaddik. That's coming from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov that's telling you, yes, that's what's possible. You could even do more than that. By pushing yourself and pushing yourself and pushing yourself and having the siyata dishmaya, HaKadosh Baruch Hu can allow you to do things that are not humanly possible. Not based on time and space. But the key is to understand that the Torah is wider than the ocean. And if those chachamim that were able to study hundreds of dapim in a matter of hours, where the average person is not going to finish hundreds of dapim in a matter of years, but yet those chachamim continue to toil over Torah, day in and day out. All of Gdolei Yisrael, all of the sages of Am Yisrael, whether it's from the ones of thousands of years ago to the ones of today living among us, every one of them has always had top priority in their life is learning Torah. Top priority in their life is teaching Torah. Top priority in their life is Torah, Torah, Torah. But they have already learned a lot of Torah. They learned countless books and countless pages and countless everything else, but they continue to learn more. Why? Because the Torah is greater than the land, wider than the ocean. There's no end to it. So if they, the Torah scholars, continue to toil and toil over Torah and not allow themselves to take even a small break, how is a person going to allow themselves to make Torah anything less than priority number one? Now, one of the extraordinary examples that the Mishnah says in Masechet Chagigah is Ezeu Meuvat, who is considered crooked that cannot be straightened. So they first say perhaps it's someone that has cohabited with a woman that's forbidden to him and produced a Mamzer from it. Because technically, so long as the Mamzer is here, he can't fix the sin. Even if he stops, even if he doesn't go back with that person, still there's a Mamzer in the world, there's a sin that exists in the world. So long as this child that came from a forbidden relationship exists in the world, that's a constant reminder of that sin. So he is crooked and he can't be straightened. But then the Mishnah says maybe it's a thief because he stole. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, no, it's not this one or that one. Why is not this one or that one? A mamzer, technically it's fixed eventually when that person dies. If that child dies, that's it. The sin is no longer there. If the person that made the sin does complete tshuva, that's it. A thief can fix it also. He can also straighten himself out by doing tshuva, by returning while he stole. But you do know who is a meuvat, who is crooked that cannot be straightened. It's someone that used to learn Torah, was a Talmid Chacham, and then he went off the derech. He abandoned the Torah, and therefore he became something crooked that cannot be straightened. They say, wait, but if he abandoned the Torah, we understand that he's crooked. But what if he came back to the Torah? Wouldn't that make him straight? He says, no. Why not? Because if he stays the way he was, meaning if he's a Torah scholar and abandoned the Torah, then he stays crooked. But if he abandons the Torah and then does tshuva, he comes back. Now, if it's a legitimate tshuva, he's going to be sorry about all the time that he missed learning Torah when he was off the derech. And that time he can never get back. So he'll never be able to strain himself out completely. He'll become even a bigger tzaddik, he'll become really, really good. But the bigger, the greater he becomes in Torah, the more sorry he's going to be about leaving the Torah even for a moment. Now there are some people, Rabotai, that left the Torah. And they were the dancing fish. Over the last couple of 100 years, the biggest attack on the Torah world was by Jews. The Enlightenment movement, the reformers. Many of those started off their lives as religious Jews, but they opened their minds up to heretical teachings and eventually welcomed those heretical teachings and started spreading that heresy across the board. And the vast majority of them died heretics, died losing their olam haba. Now, what does it mean to lose olam haba? Anyone that wants to know about Gehenom, there's a whole film that we made about 3 hours, talks about Gehenom. But there's one thing that people keep asking a question of because it's incomprehensible. When the Chachamim say, like the Ramban says that, or the Rambam, both of them say that there's certain types of sinners. For example, someone that's a heretic or that causes a missionary, causes the masses to sin, they lose their olam haba. Someone that's a mechalel Shabbat, dies a mechalel Shabbat, they lose their olam haba, meaning that their sin is punishable with eternal punishment. It's hard for people to fathom such a thing because we have no concept of what that means. What does it mean, eternity? Because we are in flesh and blood, we occupy space, we're subject to the laws of physics, and therefore we do not understand what timelessness is or what endless is. We have no concept of what that means. So when you say this is an eternal punishment, people have to, well, what do you mean eternal? Like it's a long time? Like it's 1,000 years? Or like 10 years? Especially when you see that in the introduction to the Ramban's commentary in the book of Job, he says that 1 year suffering that Job had is not equivalent to even one moment that a wicked person is going to get in Gehenom. Now, to explain eternity is impossible. But we can explain how severe the judgment is without even getting gruesome. One of the defenders of Am Yisrael, Rabbi Yitzchak Berdichov, is known for being a defender of Am Yisrael, giving kaf zchut to everyone, doing whatever he can to help people do tshuva. But what a lot of people perhaps don't know is Rabbi Yitzchak Berdichov also told his community the truth without sugarcoating it. In the Sefer called Sarfei Kodesh, page 77, and this is also mentioned in several other books, a famous story of Rabbi Yitzchak Berdichov, where there was one time that he was invited to a seudah. And Seudat Siyum. And as he was speaking, he says to the crowd, I'm going to tell you a story. He said, recently, I was invited to be a sandak in a Brit Milah. And the Brit Milah was delayed. They're waiting for some of the guests, they're waiting for the moel. So there was time that was being wasted. So I took one of the books from the shelf. It was a chumash. But I noticed that this chumash has commentary by somebody that I'm not familiar with. So since there were so many reformers and heretics in the generation, I did not read the commentary. I just read the verses from the Torah. But yet later that day, I found out my judgment in Shamayim for what I did. And the heavenly court decreed that because I read in a book of a heretic, even though I didn't read the heretic's book, I read the words of a Torah. It's just that the heretic, he put them there alongside his heretical commentary. But because I opened that book and I read from it, the heavenly decree was that they're not going to listen to my prayers for 40 days. And today, those 40 days are complete and I'm doing a Sudat Odaya, a thank you. But do you guys know what the punishment is for that heretic himself that wrote that book? And of course the crowd is waiting eagerly to hear the holy Rabbi, Rabbi Levi Yitzhak Berdichov, the defender of Am Yisrael. Tell them, what is such a heretic? A reformer, someone that says God needs you, someone that says God has flesh and blood, someone that says that God needs us, we don't need him, all types of nonsense. What is the punishment for such a person? Well, for the person that wrote the heretical book, I could tell you, because the holy lips of the Rabbi Levi Yitzhak Berdichov said it. So there's no speculation. And he says, do you know what his punishment is? It's going to be Yuval Shanim Gehenom. Yuval, a Yovel, is 50 years. 50 years of Gehenom. Well, that seems like nothing. He goes, no. Do you know what a Yovel is? A Yovel is 50 years. But it's not 50 years like us. The punishment in Shamayim is not like here. Because each year has 354 days. 365 days. 365 days. But the days in Shamayim are the days of Hashem, which David HaMelech tells us each day is 1,000 years. And therefore, each year of those 50 years of punishment in Gehenom is 1,000 years. So go do the math of 365,000 times 50 Yovel years. That's the punishment for the person that wrote the book. Needless to say, people that published a book, wrote more than one book, writing even more books today, following those teachings today. Rabbi Levi Yitzhak Berdichov tells us, you see, it looks like somebody wrote a book that has heresy in it. Somebody gave a lecture that has heresy in it. It doesn't look like a big sin. That's because we're not looking with divine glasses. We're looking at a fish that's dancing and it looks like he's having a good time. In reality, he's dying. And that's why Rabbi Yisrael Misalant says, do you know why people make sins? Because sins are like stars. From far away, they look very small. But as you get closer and closer, you realize that that star is even bigger than the world. The same concept from somebody that does not understand the significance of learning Torah. It looks like it's not a big deal. It looks like learning Torah is not necessarily something you have to do. It's not something that everyone should do. It's not something that you must do. It looks like it's a small little thing. But the reality is, the closer and closer somebody gets to the truth, the more they realize that their necessity to learn Torah is even bigger than you can possibly imagine. And without it, whatever dancing you're doing, whatever singing you're doing, is simply the dance of death. A life that's empty of Torah is simply not life. And until you understand it, until we all understand it, that means we're still not living. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll all succeed in understanding the significance of learning Torah in order to do it every day with complete commitment and dedication to help us fight the Yetzer Hara, to help us serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to help us fulfill our purpose in this world, especially when it comes to getting other people to go on the same route as well. The route of Hashem, Derech HaMelech, the path of the King. Thank you very much for learning with me. May Hashem bless each and every single one of you with a lot of success in all of your Torah learning. Anyone that wants to support, to help, can donate on the website, be'ezathashem.org, bhtorah.org. You could also order the Asher Yatzar box to distribute in your synagogue or your yeshiva by going to kiruvstore.org. Subscribe to the AI Rabbi app and all the other good stuff. Of course, all of that is available. All of that is different tools to help you serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to help others serve Hashem, and Be'ezrat Hashem, to help all of us merit seeing Mashiach come in our time soon, Be'ezrat Hashem. Kol tu b'cha v'atzlacha.